Hi folks, today I'm going to be taking a look at Godtear by Steamforged Games, giving you a basic rundown of how the game plays, what I think of it, and also why I think this has a little more to it than meets the eye. Godtear is a tabletop skirmish board game for 2 players. With its dynamic scenarios and pre-assembled pre-coloured miniatures, it's quick to start, but hard to master. When the gods were destroyed, their tears rained from the sky as crystalline meteors filled with godly essence. Those meteors, or god tears, bestow incredible power on those strong enough to seek them. Just a handful of mortals are able to withstand and harness the divine power of the god tears. Those chosen few fast develop a taste for the tears, becoming great champions in their perpetual quest to gain more. Godtear battles are fought by 2 opposing warbands made up of an equal number of champions. A standard level game features 3 champions and their followers for each warband. However, whilst first learning the game, I'd recommend starting with 1 champion in each warband and then building up to 2 and then 3 once you have the hang of the game. A warband can be made up of any Godtear champions you like, regardless of their class. So you have complete freedom to play with whatever champions you like the look of, or once you understand the game a little better, maybe the ones you can synergize best with. Players can tailor their warband to suit their preferred playstyle. For example, a player who wants to focus on taking out the enemy champions could play with a 3 Slayer warband. This is probably a good time to tell you about the classes. There are 4 champion classes, each with their own playstyles. Slayers are powerful warriors that focus on fighting enemy champions, and they gain additional points for knocking out those champions. These are the red warbands. Maelstroms are destructive vortexes that excel in eliminating enemy followers, and they gain additional points for knocking out those followers. These are the yellow warbands. Stoic defenders, the guardians protect their allies and their banner, and they gain additional points if their banner remains in play at the end of a turn. These are the blue warbands. Keen to control the flow of the game, shapers manipulate the battlefield and they gain additional points for placing their banners. These are the green warbands. The Borderlands and Eternal Glade starter sets are the ideal way for you to get started with Godtear. Each set features a double-sided board, a set of 10 Godtear dice, all the tokens you need to play, along with 2 champions, their followers, and their cards, so players can learn the game with a friend or start building a larger warband for bigger battles. Each set has different board designs and different champions included, so buying both starters is a great way to step up your game from 1 versus 1 champions to 2v2, and then you can pick up individual warbands to build out to a standard 3x3 game. They're very well priced too at £40 recommended retail price and can be picked up around £30 online with some discounts. Godtear uses a Tug of War scoring system represented by the battle ladder on the side of the board. As you score points, each player moves the turn token towards their side of the battle ladder. Players can score points by knocking out enemy champions, knocking out enemy followers, placing their champion banners on Godtears, and also keeping those banners in play until the end of the turn. At the end of each turn, the player with the turn token on their side of the battle ladder wins the round and gains the number of victory points shown on the reverse side of the token. In turn 1, you can score 1 point, 2 points in turn 2, 3 points in turn 3, and then it begins to drop again with 2 points in turn 4 and 1 in turn 5. The game will last a minimum of 3 turns and a maximum of 5. So for example, if you lose turn 1 and turn 2, then you need to win turn 3 to tie up the game on 3 victory points each, which means turn 4 is then the decider. The game is never over after just a couple of turns, and you must make calculated tactical choices around when to commit your warband and score those victory points. The winner is the first to 5 VP. At the end of each turn, the battlefield shifts as the power of the Godtears manipulates the surrounding ground. This creates new openings for players to score points and make sure every game of Godtear is different. There are a number of scenarios in the rules which manipulate the board in different ways and always give a benefit to the player who lost the last turn, helping get them back into the fight. The game consists of 2 main phases. In the plot phase, players activate everything in their warband at once, moving their forces into position and setting up the turn ahead. In the clash phase, players take alternating turns to activate miniatures, allowing them to adapt to changes on the battlefield. When this game went into early access and then later to Kickstarter, I kind of wrote it off as another hex-based combat game. I already had Warhammer Underworlds and Aristea, And also with Guild Ball's competitive play focus, I thought this wasn't really a game I needed. Once the game launched, I heard very little about it, and I assumed that maybe the gameplay wasn't much to shout about. There were a few folks who told me that they'd played it and really enjoyed it, so I thought it might be worth still checking it out. I contacted Steamforged and asked if they'd be interested in sending me a review copy, and they gladly obliged. They sent me out both starter sets and an additional 2 warbands, meaning I had enough to play with 3 champions versus 3 champions, and I'm very glad that they did, and I'll get to why soon. The game at its core is pretty straightforward to grasp. In the plot phase, each of your champions and followers can make 2 different actions, and the abilities that they can do are shown on the plot phase side of their cards, so there's no reason to reference keywords or rules in the book. You can move your champions and followers up to the number of hexes shown on their cards. Only champions can move across or stand on the objective hexes, and only champions can place banners or destroy the opponent's banner. Once you've activated a model, flip its card over to the clash phase side. Here, your champion or follower has different abilities they can use in the clash phase, which generally means they become more combat orientated. However, this is a great way of mixing up the warband's abilities without overwhelming the player with long lists of available actions. The miniatures themselves are also really good quality. You may be put off by single piece plastics, however these are detailed, they're strong and they're quick to get to the table. You can of course paint them if you're a hobbyist too, but for those looking for more of a board game accessibility point, the coloured plastic is perfect. Thanks to the game being launched through Kickstarter, there is already a good range of warbands to choose from, and with more being added regularly, there will be something for everyone's taste. And like the starter sets, I think they're priced pretty well at £25 RRP, but again always available with a bit of discount. Another nice touch is your warband is never killed. Your champion has health points, and once they have 0 left, they are knocked out. They are placed on the side in the same hex, and you can rally them with an action in the next activation, returning to the fight fully healed. If a follower is knocked out, they are removed from the board, and you can then recruit a new follower in their next activation using an action, and they are placed adjacent to the champion model. The Tug of War Ladder for scoring is another neat mechanic, and it's one I'm a fan of from games like Dread Ball. Some scenarios see your ladder getting shorter as you win turns, which means your opponent has an advantage to swing it back to their side faster, which is a great way of introducing a rubber banding handicap system. Speaking of which, the game really does make good use of the ability to give the losing player a leg up, so you never feel that you're completely out of the game. At the end of a turn, the player that lost that turn might get to place the new objective hexes so they block in an opponent's follower models, or maybe make it easier for them to score with their banner in the next turn. They also get to choose if they get to go first or second as well in the next turn, and that also has a balancing mechanic. The player who goes first starts with the turn token on their side of the ladder, which gives you 1 step of advantage. It does, however, mean you need to go first, and your opponent can then react to your plot phase actions. As you can only place a banner in the plot phase, this may leave you exposed to having your banners destroyed. The scenarios add a lot to the game, and on initial inspection, I didn't think that they were all that different. However, during play it became obvious just how they affect each game and how you need to adapt to that changing play area. Combat is also handled really simply by using your accuracy number to be how many dice you need to roll to hit your opponent. The dice are d6 with either 2, 1 or 0 successes on each side. Roll your dice, add up the total and compare against your opponent's dodge stat. And if you equal or beat it, you've hit them. You then roll to damage, and again you use the damage stat to tell you how many dice to roll, add up the total rolled and compare it against your opponent's defense stat. Every point over that defense is 1 point of damage. This is very fast to do and doesn't require looking at any symbols or tables in the rulebook to calculate it. Also in the game are things called Boons and Blights. Boons boost certain things like movement, your dodge ability, your accuracy to hit, and Blights, unsurprisingly, give a negative effect to those attributes. For example, a boon on your damage stat will give you 1 extra dice. These can't be stacked, and they must be used the next time you take the action. Now, buying 1 starter box to give the game a try is a great way to get started. Everything you need is in that box and gets you up and running playing with 1 versus 1. It's a fantastic way to learn the basics and have a fun board game experience. For some folks, maybe those with younger players, this might be all you need to enjoy the game, but it really does come to life when you raise the champion count up to 2 and then 3 champions per player. Because a lot of your abilities affect friendly models, then that means one champion can buff another by maybe allocating a boon token, or maybe you can move another champion's followers outside of their normal turn. For me, it was at this higher level that a light bulb really clicked for me and the strategy of the game came to life. If I had only been sent a starter box to review, I think I may not have really grasped the huge difference in gameplay, so thanks to Jamie for sending out a full set. I have to admit, I was very wrong in my initial impressions about this game, and whilst it can be played at a competitive tournament level, it can very happily be played as just a regular skirmish board game casually, and also as a bit of a narrative experience. Now this is why I said at the start, there's more to this game than meets the eye. I believe Steamforged have learned a lot from Guild Ball, and you can really see the things that they've put in place to try and improve this game for the future. You can go online and check out the free organised play pack, which will give you some ideas of how the game is headed. That organised play pack isn't just a tournament pack, but it also includes a full campaign. A campaign is split up into chapters, and included are chapter cards which give special rules for each game in the campaign. They show a location where you'll be fighting, this is how opponents are matched, and there are numbers at the bottom which relate to which chapter the winner and the loser of the game must go to next. This will match up winners with winners in the next chapter. After each chapter, you can spend the Godtears that you acquire at the end of the game to level up your champions. Each champion has 2 paths that they can take, which will give you minor boosts at first, but as you acquire more Godtears through the campaign, your champions will become even more godlike. Now when it comes to tournament play, Godtear is starting right out of the gates with a champion rotation in place, which is great to see. It means as the game grows, it doesn't become unwieldy for newer players to know how to get into it, and it also means those models that may become auto-includes can be rotated out and make people adapt and change their gameplay styles. This really is great to see, and I look forward to seeing how this pans out as we start seeing tournaments getting up and running again. Overall, I am hugely impressed with Godtear. Like I said, I'd written this off as just another hex game due to the lack of noise around it. However, this is very quickly becoming one of my favourite games, and I've already started buying extra warbands for it. If you want to give it a try, there's also a free-to-play Tabletopia digital edition of the game where you can dip your toe in and maybe even try out a new warband before you buy it. For me, this game ticks a lot of boxes. Accessible entry points, really simple to learn rules, good priced expansions, straightforward gameplay with lots of tactical depth, and a campaign system for those that don't want to get involved in the competitive side. This really could be my game of 2020. Thanks for watching my video. I hope that you really enjoyed it, and if you did, why not consider clicking on the suggested video below to see more of the work that I've done. If you'd like to support the long-term sustainability of this channel, why not consider checking out my Patreon, where you can pledge and support from as little as $2 a month, and there is lots of different tiers and bonuses which will give you access to a private Discord server. It will give you free t-shirts, free mugs, a podcast every month, and a number of other things, including getting your name at the end of every video, like these awesome folks who already support me now.